Swadika and good evening and welcome to our special program as we're counting down towards the general elections on May 14th. I'm Nad Bunak.
And Tulip Nak Sompoplang. We will see you every Wednesday evening until we get a new government.
Well, we're not sure when we'll get the new government, but what we're really certain is that the elections are just a week away. Could you believe it?
Yes. Yeah, it's very close by and we have a lot of things to offer. We'll have, of course, our Wednesday program next week. We have our special on Friday before the election, Friday the 12th. And on the election day itself, we'll have a special program throughout the day.
So our D-Day for the election day will also be here as well. So next week we have our Wednesday program, we have a special one on Friday, and also D-Day on Sunday.
So the program this week will begin with the news that not exactly political news, but it's related to a person in the election campaign period. Because Paetongtarn Shinawatra, the prime ministerial candidate of Pheu Thai party, just gave birth to her first son on Monday morning. It's their second child, but it's first son of the family. And the boy was named Phrithasin Suksawat, nicknamed Thasin. And she said that she will be back on campaigning as soon as she has recuperated. Meanwhile, her father, exiled former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, tweeted a message at about 8 a.m. saying that he is very happy to have his seventh grandchild, adding that he will be 74 in July and would like to seek permission to return to Thailand to raise his grandchildren. He ended his message with the word "see you soon," and it's become such a big news in Thailand because, well, it's not the first time he said he wants to come back, but I think he has been saying a lot lately, and Pheu Thai being one of the big party in this election, a lot of people think that it's another way of him that thinking that there will be a pathway of coming back, but he is actually not barred from entering Thailand.
Right, but he has been saying that he wants to return to Thailand for many years already, since he has been exiled for more than 17 years.
Yes, but it just when he returned to Thailand, he probably going to be arrested.
Right.
And Thaksin was ousted from the office on September 19 of 2006 by then Army Commander-in-Chief General Sonthi Bunyaratlin, while he was attending the UN General Assembly in New York. Throughout his 17 years in exile, he has spent most of his time in Dubai.
So we can see that many people were really interested in the news of Paetongtarn and her new baby boy as well, but many people have also talked about the future of Pheu Thai as well, and there are also some speculations whether Thaksin will actually return to Thailand if Pheu Thai becomes the new government as well.
And Thaksin has never really disappeared from Thai politics though, even though he's not here physically for many years now. He always pop up in every kind of social media platform. He's always has been present, and he show up at many countries that close to Thailand for attending some event or just give out some lecture and all that.
And one of the most recent cases for Thaksin is that he has appeared in Clubhouse giving conversations, talking about his whereabouts and his vision with his Clubhouse followers as well. So like you said, he has never disappeared when it comes to Thai politics at the same time, there are still many of his supporters, despite the fact that he has been ousted for many years already.
It'll be interesting because the first-time voter mean that in the past 8 years, since this group was 10 years old until 18, they never really experienced anything else besides government under Prayut Chan-o-cha.
Exactly. And now let's move on to this issue. The Election Commission decided to void any advanced voting by Thais living in Sudan and to allow those who have returned safely to Thailand to cast their ballots in their constituencies in the May 14th general election. So the advanced voting was scheduled on April 28th and the 29th at the Thai consular office in Khartoum, but the fighting in and around the Sudanese capital has been raging since mid mid-April, making it almost impossible for Thai voters to cast their ballots there. The Election Commission's chairman, Ithipon Buntprakong, said that advanced voting by Thais living abroad runs from April 24th until May 5th, which is up until this Friday, and all of the ballots cast must arrive in Thailand between May 9th and May 12th, so that they can be distributed to the electoral constituencies to be counted with those cast on Election Day. The Election Commission has rectified the problem of the late arrival of ballots from abroad encountered during the last election by using an overseas voting monitoring system, or OVMS, for every diplomatic pouch carrying election ballots, enabling officials to check their real-time whereabouts. And to make sure that the overseas ballots arrive by the deadline, Ithipon said that Thai embassy officials in 13 countries will hand carry their pouches back to Thailand. He also reminded those who have registered to vote in advance to cast their ballots at 447 designated polling stations in 77 provinces, as they cannot vote on May 14th. And those who fail to vote on May 7th must notify election officials in the 7 days following the election day, as they have to tell them the reason why they could not vote in advance on May 7th, so that they will not lose their voting rights.
Meanwhile, election ballots were dispatched under Thai police security from Thailand Post Company's head office in Bangkok on Monday to 400 electoral constituencies across the country, ahead of advanced voting this Sunday. Police General Roy Inkapairod, the Deputy National Police Chief, in his capacity as the Chief of the Command Center to ensure security and peace during the general election, said that 239 police vehicles will escort the many delivery trucks. 478 highway police and 48 border patrol officers have been deployed to protect the ballot delivery trucks. He said that a border patrol officer will accompany the truck drivers until they reach their destinations. Letters of notification of eligible voters have already been sent to 18.49 million households throughout the country.
So when we talk about advanced voting, I think many people have took this opportunity to vote in advance, and as well as those who decided to vote overseas as well. But if we remember in the 2019 elections, what has been considered a scandal that time was the votes from New Zealand, which whoever has claimed that it didn't reach Thailand by the deadline. But after the investigation, actually they found out that it did arrive on time. So whoever was responsible for the votes in New Zealand have already received punishment. But even though many people still have some hopes for this general election, people in New Zealand were still feel a bit...
It's a scar.
Yeah, exactly. Feel like there's some sort of scar in their minds, and they felt a bit betrayed as well, because
they lose trust in the system.
Exactly, they trusted in the system, and they were really excited to cast their votes during the 2019 election. So what they've been doing so far for this election is that they will set up a committee to oversee the elections in New Zealand before all the votes are sent back to Thailand.
Talking about election, one big factor in the election is the Election Commission. And recently, the Thailand think tank TDI just issued some suggestion and statement, actually make a big comment and critiques of Election Commission for their poor oversight of the populist campaign policy. Thailand Development Research Institute has criticized the Election Commission for its failure to check whether populist campaign policies that were promised by political parties in their election manifestos are worth the huge spending, confirming the sources of the funding of the policies and the potential impacts on the country's fiscal discipline and public debt. The country's economic think tank has made a number of observations about these policies. They say that some of the parties have not explained in their reports to the Election Commission or to the public about the sources of funding needed to realize the policies, which would be a heavy burden on the state. The TDI also said that several parties have announced that they will make use of the annual budget to implement their campaign policies, but have not specified which budgets will be cut in order to fund them. While some parties say they will source their funding from tax increases, but do not specify what taxes would be increased or by how much. Another observation is that most parties only talk about the positive aspects of their campaign policies, but do not mention the downsides or the high risk, despite the fact that the policies would require massive levels of funding. Some parties have announced the sources of funding for each of their policies, but did not provide a whole picture, giving the public a false sense of security that there is enough money to fund all the policies.
The TDRI picked 4 parties whose populist policies require larger amounts of spending to implement than those of other parties. We begin with Phumjai Thai Party, whose spending to implement its policies is estimated at about 1.9 trillion baht for 4 years. Say the money will be obtained from sources outside the national budget at about 700 billion baht annually. This is to fund its emergency lending policy, such as the 3-year debt moratorium, a fund to guarantee payment for damage caused to crops and free solar cells, among others, adding that the party has not provided to the Election Commission sufficient details about these policies. And regarding the controversial manifesto by Pheu Thai Party, which is the 10,000 baht digital money giveaway to the 55 million Thais who are over 16, the TDRI said that the party claims that it would increase taxes and cut some overlapping welfare budgets to fund the policy. However, the party did not specify which welfare budgets will be cut, adding that the party's expectation of higher tax collection is based on its over-assessment of economic performance. However, the TDRI praised the Move Forward Party as the only party that has clearly specified the cost of the implementation of its campaign policies and funding sources from the annual budget, which will not further burden the state coffers. However, it noted that some of the party's policies, such as cutting the defense budget, are likely to meet with stiff resistance.
TDI also said that the Palang Pracharat Party is creating public misunderstanding about its policy to cut energy and fuel charges for 1 year, claiming that this policy can be done without using the national budget. The truth is that this policy, which will exempt excise tax on all types of fuel, will worsen the financial position of the oil fuel fund, which is now running in the red to the tune of about 85 billion baht and will result in increasing public debt. So would the policy to exempt personal income tax for people who do not earn more than 500,000 baht a year, which will also impact the country's fiscal position. On the Democrat Party's populist campaign policies, the TDI said that they only mentioned that 460 billion baht of funding will not come from national budgets, but did not specify from where it will actually come. TDI explained that the intention of this report is to encourage the Election Commission to perform its duty to regulate political parties and to make sure that they keep the public fully informed of their policies. It also urged political parties to improve the standard of their reports, especially the sources of the funding for their policies, to show their respect for the public. For the future government coalition parties, TDI advised them not to rely too much on populist policies to stimulate the economy and to keep funds in reserve for a time when the economy is slowing due to the global economic uncertainty. So populists sound exciting, but I think TDI is trying to say that make sure you give out the source of the funding, the plan and everything, so people can see how realistic all these policies are.
Right, but when we talk about the populist policies, it is certain that most of the parties will talk about the positive sides and not the negative sides, because that would be the only way for the voters to actually cast their ballots for each of the parties. So it is sort of impossible to expect all the parties to talk about the downside. So let's say, for example, the 10,000 baht money into the digital wallets. They're going to talk about what they can actually do with that money rather than saying that, oh, if you get the 10,000 baht money, there's going to be more problems if you don't manage it carefully. No one's going to say that. They're going to talk about what they will benefit from their manifestos. They're not going to talk about the negative sides anyway.
Yeah, it's election campaign. They're not going to talk about negative things that might happen from their campaign.
Yes, and populist policies is actually something that we've seen for every single election that took place, not just in Thailand, but
I think
almost
it's
everywhere.
much more this year, though. I mean, compared to 4 years ago or 8 years ago during the election, 9 years, not 4 years, during the election, I think this year populist policy are much more, what would be the word?
Maybe it's because like the populist policies are more likely to direct towards the grassroots economy. So whatever they talk about, they actually have to say things that these people can visualize, whether it's the amount of money, the benefits that they will get straight away. So that would be one thing that is so obvious. And another obvious part is that there are more political parties contesting in the general elections. It's not like in the past old days where there were only two main parties between Thai Rak Thai and the Democrats. It's not like that anymore.
I think there's always these many parties in the past, but this Democrat and Thai Rak Thai or Pheu Thai were much bigger than now.
Right.
I mean, we barely see Democrat as a factor, sorry to say that, in this general election. Palang Pracharat is not as big as 4 years ago.
Yep.
And we have a new party, and we have Pheu Thai, which also, people just defect to other political party as well. So there's a lot of trim to these big parties, former bigger parties.
Right. But the populist policies will still be something that many people would love to criticize. And speaking of that, when we talk about these policies, most of them would often involve policies that are directed towards the workers, laborers, as well as people from the grassroots economy. And one of them that we have been talking about as well is to increase the daily minimum wage. So now let's give you a recap on the party's proposals on this matter. So like we said before, Pheu Thai Party has vowed to raise the daily minimum wage to 600 baht and the starting monthly salary of bachelor's degree holders to 25,000 baht by 2025. It also promises to roll out a so-called negative income tax, subsidizing households that fall below a certain income threshold. Meanwhile, the Move Forward Party says it will ensure the minimum wage increases each year, starting with an increase to 450 baht before the end of 2023. It also pledges to ensure overtime pay for people who work more than 40 hours a week, grant 180 days of paid maternity or paternity leave, and allow all groups of laborers to form unions. Palang Pracharat Party is also promising significant hikes between 400 and 425 baht for minimum daily wages and a starting monthly salary of 20,000 baht for bachelor's degree holders and 80,000 baht for vocational graduates. At the same time, the party pledges a 5-year tax exemption for new graduates and 2-year tax exemption for online vendors. Though increasing the daily minimum wage seems to give laborers some hope, these proposals have been criticized by experts, most of whom believe that this can put the Thai economy at risk. Associate Professor Dr. Giriya Kunkunkan, a lecturer at Thammasat University's Faculty of Economics, said political parties have failed to present a holistic vision of what they could do for laborers. She actually commented that the hike in minimum daily wages may not be the right solution and that the new government should focus on the overall picture before tackling the problems of each group of workers. she actually recommended that the incoming government should focus on 3 goals. So the first goal is on productivity, the second one is on immunity and inclusivity. So on productivity, the government should promote manufacturing technologies, high value added products, and improved output. The workforce must be upskilled and reskilled to demonstrate higher competence. Otherwise, global firms could relocate their manufacturing bases out of Thailand. And this is actually happening already, where some of the manufacturing bases have moved to other countries in the ASEAN region. On immunity, the government should offer welfare and protection for people working outside the system, help them save money, and promote lifelong learning and upskilling to keep pace with the fast-changing context and technologies. Last but not least, on inclusivity, the government should curb inequalities and reach out to vulnerable and informal workers or workers of subcontractors. She also said that more than half of over 13 million working Thais have jobs outside the formal sector. And in fact, reskilling and upskilling is one of the most important things for workers to do so that they can actually survive in this industry, considering that there's digital disruption and technology advancements in many industries as well.
Well, when we talk about populist policy, it's usually not target just workers, also target farmer, as agriculture is the backbone of Thai economy. And right now, critics are worried that all these political parties are promising or looking at the wrong thing to offer to agricultural sector in this election. The policies proposed by the Democrat Party, a member of the outgoing ruling coalition, include income guarantee for farmers engaged in growing rice, cassava roots, rubber trees, palm, and maize. It would also give a cash handout of 30,000 baht to each farmer household to help improve their farming efficiency. The party also has promised to provide 100,000 baht a year subsidy to each fishing community and issue ownership titles for up to 1 million land plots in 4 years. The Democrats in the current coalition government oversee the Commerce Ministry and Ministry of Agriculture and Cooperatives, which are responsible for implementing the income guarantee scheme for farmers. Under the scheme, if the market price falls below the reference price set by the government, the state will pay the farmers the difference. Critics say that the income guarantee scheme provides wrong incentives to farmers and is a waste of taxpayers' money. The scheme costs about 30 billion to 80 billion baht a year, depending on the price volatility of farm products. A higher market price results in a lower subsidy budget, while the government foots a high bill when market prices drop. Nipon Paopongsakorn, an economist and distinguished fellow at the Thailand Development Research Institute, or TDI, said that the scheme does not encourage farmers to improve their productivity. He also felt that funding the farm production efficiency scheme, which costs as much as 50 billion baht a year, overlaps the income guarantee scheme, adding that it is not any different from a cash handout. According to TDI, the combined cost of the income guarantee scheme and the support for production efficiency was about 140 billion baht between 2021 and 2022.
Meanwhile, the ruling coalition leader, Palang Pracharat Party, has pledged to provide fertilizer subsidy and debt reduction to farmers. Another ruling coalition member, the Phumjai Thai Party, has promised a debt moratorium for 3 years for farmers. Each household would receive a debt moratorium of up to 1 million baht. The opposition Pheu Thai Party has promised to give farmers a debt moratorium for 3 years. Farmers don't need to repay the principal amount as well as interest. Any debt moratorium is expected to impose a heavy burden on the state-owned Bank for Agriculture and agricultural cooperatives. Farmers also will be eligible to receive 10,000 baht under the Pheu Thai Digital Wallet Scheme, which is offering cash to everyone aged 16 and above and is expected to cost over 500 billion baht. However, critics are worried that the debt moratorium policies will be a moral hazard, ending up in the government providing financial support to state-owned banks later.
Pheu Thai Party also has pledged to look into land rights of poor farmers. The opposition Move Forward Party has pledged to release 10 million rai, or about 1.6 million hectares of land, back to farmers and establish a land bank. Economists are questioning the wisdom behind giving public land to farmers. Nippon does not think providing land to farmers will reduce the inequality between the rich and the poor. He said it might have worked 30 to 40 years ago. But land given to landless farmers could end up in the hands of influential people such as politicians, senior officials, and the rich having connections with state officials. Meanwhile, Thailand started land reforms known as Sopagor 401 in 1975 by giving state land to landless farmers who could use it for agricultural purposes but not own it. So far, Thai government has given away about 3.64 million rai, or about 0.528 million hectares of land under this program, representing about 24% of total agricultural land in the country. He commented that Thailand is among a few countries giving away large areas of public land to farmers, but just giving out lands to farmers will no longer work. Instead of handing out cash and public land to farmers, the next government should focus on training farmers to do modern farming. The government should collaborate with regional universities and use these researchers to work with farmers on improving their productivity. Researchers should also be given incentives to move their career path upward if they could support farmers with their own research. He noted that there are some effective training courses provided by the Department of Agricultural Extension of the Ministry of Agriculture and Cooperatives.
However, Thailand is becoming an aging society, while the younger generation does not want to work on farms. In fact, modern farming requires new technology and higher education. Therefore, Nippon suggested that the new generation has to be knowledgeable in order to manage their farms productively. Moreover, they also need to learn marketing and digital technology to sell the produce. The government also needs to provide digital infrastructure, as currently the cost of internet connection is too high for people living in rural areas. So, speaking of the farmers, there's still a lot that needs to be changed even after this election, because it seems like the farmers are not receiving enough support.
Well, mind you, Sopagor 401 scheme, the land they're giving out to farmers, has been in news often enough that it resurfaced as a land that people got the piece of land and just built a house or a resort, not doing any farming.
Right.
So there must be some change there.
Exactly. And that wraps up tonight's edition of our special program on the Thai elections. So we will see you next week on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. And so thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ